I never expected a simple weekend hike to change the way I saw myself, or the way I saw him. We were just a group of friends trying to escape the noise of school, getting lost under the tall pines and the fading light of late summer. The air smelled like earth and rain, the kind that made every breath feel heavier, deeper, more honest. I thought I knew my place in the group, the quiet one, the one who joked at the wrong time, the one who always walked toward the back of the line, so no one would notice how distracted I was by the guy in front of me, the guy I trusted more than anyone else, the guy I never thought would look at me the way I secretly looked at him. But halfway through the trail, when everyone stopped to rest, when the sun burned gold through the leaves and the world felt strangely still, he looked at me, really looked, and he said something I never expected to hear from him, something so simple and so dangerous that it knocked the air out of my lungs. He said my lips were beautiful. That one sentence shattered the ground beneath us. It shouldn't have meant anything. It shouldn't have changed anything. But from that moment on, the hike wasn't just a hike anymore. It became the beginning of something neither of us were ready to face. Something tender, frightening, and completely out of our control. Before this story unfolds, a story about discovery, fear, connection, and the moment two friends cross a line they could never uncross. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You'll find stories that touch the heart, stories that stay with you, and stories that might just reflect the things you've never said out loud. If you're ready, this trail goes deeper than you think. And it all starts with one sentence he never should have said. I never expected the trail to feel different that day. We'd hiked the same forest dozens of times, the same dirt path carved between tall pines, the same crunch of leaves under our boots, the same pockets of sunlight breaking through branches like pieces of warm glass. It was familiar, predictable, safe. And yet, somehow, the air felt charged, like the forest knew something I didn't. It was supposed to be a normal trip. Just me, Ryan, and two other friends from college, walking the Ridgeview Trail before classes swallowed our lives again. But early in the morning, just as we were leaving campus, the other two messaged saying they couldn't come, last-minute work shifts and family emergencies and all that. So it ended up being just me and Ryan. Just me and Ryan. That shouldn't have meant anything. We've been friends for 3 years, roommates freshman year, lab partners sophomore year, and now practically inseparable without ever admitting it out loud. He was the kind of guy everyone liked immediately. Warm smile, confident walk, the kind of presence that made people relax. And me? I was quieter, more observant, more cautious with the world. But Ryan made me forget that sometimes. 5 miles into the hike, we reached a part of the trail where the trees grew closer, forming an almost tunnel over our heads. Sunlight flickered in moving patterns across his face as he walked beside me. He was talking about something, a story from work, I think. But I wasn't listening, or maybe I was listening too hard. The cadence of his voice, the way he laughed at his own joke, the way he kept looking at me just a little longer than necessary. "You're quiet today," he said, nudging me lightly with his arm. I shrugged, just tired. He tilted his head. "You always say that when something's on your mind." I looked away, focusing on the uneven ground in front of me. "I'm fine." "Liar," he said with a grin. The thing about Ryan was, he never pushed too hard, but he always pushed just enough to make you feel seen, even when you didn't know if you wanted to be. We walked in silence for a while, the kind of silence that wasn't empty. The forest hummed around us. Birds, wind, a creek somewhere in the distance. The trail curved, leading us to a spot where the trees opened into a clearing overlooking the valley. He stopped suddenly. "Whoa," he said softly. "I forgot how good this view is." I stepped beside him. The valley stretched for miles, rolling green hills, a river slicing to the middle like a silver ribbon, and a sky so blue it felt unreal. Ryan took a deep breath. "Man, I really needed this." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Me too." We stood there, shoulder to shoulder, close enough that our arms brushed every time one of us shifted, close enough that breathing felt harder. "Hey," he said suddenly. I turned. "Yeah." He was staring at me, not at the view, not at the sky, but at me. There was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Something steady, something warm. He stepped a little closer. My heartbeat spiked. "You ever notice how peaceful it is out here?" he asked. "Yeah," I whispered. "It's like the world slows down enough for you to actually see stuff." I nodded, confused by his tone. He kept looking at me, straight into me, like he wasn't scared of what he might find inside. And then, out of nowhere, his voice dropped into something softer. "I never noticed how nice your lips look in the sunlight." My breath caught. The forest went completely silent. "What?" I said, barely audible. Ryan's cheeks flushed, but he didn't look away. "Your lips," he repeated. "They look really nice." I felt my entire body freeze, not out of fear, but out of pure shock. This was Ryan, the guy who never crossed lines, the guy who always kept things playful, the guy who dated girls last semester. And now, he was looking at me like this. "You don't have to say stuff like that." I managed to mumble. "I didn't have to," he said. "I wanted to." The wind shifted, brushing the hair off his forehead. The sunlight made the freckles on his nose stand out. And suddenly the world didn't feel familiar anymore. It felt dangerous. It felt like standing on the edge of something, too close to falling. "Ryan," I whispered. He stepped even closer. Close enough that I felt the heat of him. Close enough that my pulse echoed in my ears. "You always avoid my eyes when you don't know how to handle something," he said. "I'm not." "You are," he said gently. "You're doing it right now." And he was right. I was staring at the ground. I forced myself to look up again. His eyes softened like he was relieved. "I didn't mean to freak you out," he said. I say stupid things when I'm nervous." "You're nervous?" I whispered. He laughed quietly. "Yeah, kinda." "That doesn't make sense," I said. "You're never nervous." His smile dropped just a little, the truth showing underneath. "Around you I am." The air in the clearing tightened around us. "You don't have to pretend," I said, voice shaking. "If this is some joke or—" "It's not a joke," he cut in quickly. "I wouldn't do that to you." I swallowed hard. "Then why would you say something like that?" He hesitated. One breath, two breaths, as if deciding whether to take the next step. "Because," he said, voice barely above a whisper, "I've been thinking about it for a while. About you. About this." My heart slammed against my ribs. "You don't have to say anything," he added. "I just needed to be honest today. Just once." The wind rustled through the trees, the only sound between us. And then he stepped back. Only an inch, but it felt like a mile. "Come on," he said softly. "We should keep walking before we lose the light." But as he turned away, I felt it clear as day. Something had changed. Something huge. Something that couldn't be undone. And deep inside, I knew this trail was about to take us somewhere neither of us was ready for. Somewhere that would change everything. I didn't expect the hike to feel different the next morning, but it did. The forest didn't look the same, the trail didn't feel the same, and Ethan definitely didn't feel the same. Not after what he said the night before. "My lips are what?" I kept replaying that moment in my head. His voice, the softness in it, the way he looked at me like he was saying something he shouldn't but couldn't hold back. And then he changed the subject so fast it felt like slamming a door. Now, we were all gathering near the start of the trail again. Me, Ethan, Lucas, Megan, and Mia, but I couldn't stop glancing at him. He acted normal. Too normal. Like he was trying to erase the entire conversation. When our instructor announced a group order, Ethan casually stepped closer to me. "Guess we're partners today," he said, smiling like nothing had happened. I swallowed. "Yeah, cool." But inside, everything felt like a shaken soda, ready to burst. We started walking, the morning sun pushing to the trees in bright streaks. Leaves crackled beneath our boots. The air smelled like pine and cold water. Everyone chatted ahead of us, laughing at whatever Lucas was saying. But Ethan and I drifted a little behind. I kept my eyes on the trail, but his presence felt too close, too warm. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. "Not really." "Thinking about something?" I hesitated. "Yeah." "Want to talk about it?" I looked at him then. His eyes were gentle, curious, and nervous. like he already knew what I was thinking about. Do you want to talk about it? I asked quietly. He inhaled sharply, staring straight ahead. About what? I almost laughed. You know what? Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he adjusted his backpack, stepped over a fallen branch, and waited until our group was far enough ahead that they couldn't hear us. Then, with a soft voice, I didn't mean to make things weird. You didn't. I lied. Ethan exhaled. Yeah, I did. The tension between us felt real, stretching thin like a thread, ready to snap. Finally, he stopped walking, just stopped in the middle of the trail. I froze too. He turned toward me. I shouldn't have said what I said, he murmured. About your lips. I don't know why I just said it. But you meant it. I whispered. His jaw tightened. That's the problem. A wave of heat rushed through me. Not embarrassment, but something bigger. Something confusing and exhilarating. I stepped toward him, closing half the distance. Ethan, I said softly, why did you say it? A breeze rustled to the leaves, soft but cold. He shoved his hands in his pockets like he needed to hold them still. I don't know, he whispered. Or maybe I do. I just don't want to say it wrong. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Try, I said. He looked down at the ground, then up at me. His eyes were darker than usual, filled with something that made my stomach flip. I can't stop noticing things about you, he said. Your face, your voice, the way you laugh. And yesterday your lips were just... He swallowed hard. I shouldn't be thinking about my best friend like that. I didn't move. Couldn't. His words felt unreal, like something I had imagined 100 times but never thought I would actually hear. But you do, I said. His breath caught. Yeah, I do. We stood there, two guys in the middle of a forest trail, and suddenly the world felt too quiet, too intimate. The trees stood like tall, silent witnesses, sunlight flickering between them. Ethan took one small step closer. Our boots nearly touched. I don't know what that means, he whispered, and I'm scared of messing this up. I felt something crack open inside me, something I had kept locked for too long. You're not messing anything up, I said. He stared at me like he didn't believe it, like he wanted to but was terrified to let himself. Before he could respond, a shout echoed from up ahead. Hey! You two okay back there? Lucas's voice. Ethan jerked back instantly, almost tripping on a root. His entire posture changed, guarded, defensive, like he had been caught doing something wrong. We're coming, he yelled. Then he looked at me again, but this time, fear flickered in his eyes. I'm not ready for them to know anything, he whispered urgently. I didn't say they had to, I replied. He bit his lip, looking torn. Can we just keep this between us? At least for now? The request cut deeper than I expected. Not because it was unfair, but because I knew exactly why he asked. Yeah, I said softly. We can. He let out a shaky breath, relieved. Maybe too relieved. We walked again, catching up with the group, but the air between us wasn't the same anymore. Our shoulders brushed once or twice, and each time, Ethan flinched like sparks were shooting up his arm. At one point, Mia nudged me. Everything okay with you and Ethan? You two look weirdly quiet. I forced a laugh. We're fine. But when I glanced at Ethan, he quickly looked away. We continued hiking deeper into the forest, crossing wooden bridges, stepping over rocks, following the twisting path. The group chatted about the waterfall we would reach soon, but my focus stayed on the boy walking just a few steps beside me. The boy who said my lips were beautiful. The boy who admitted he couldn't stop noticing me. The boy who was now trying desperately to act normal. Near the top of a small incline, Ethan slipped on a patch of loose dirt. I grabbed his arm instinctively, steadying him. He froze, too close, breathing fast, and whispered, Thanks. You don't have to run from me. I whispered back. He didn't respond, but his eyes did. A storm of emotions. Fear, longing, curiosity, and something that felt like a secret begging to be spoken. He eventually pulled away, but the moment stayed between us like a held breath. When we reached the clearing where the trees opened up to a view of the mountains, the others ran ahead to take pictures. But Ethan stayed beside me, close, quiet, shaken, and then, in a voice so soft I almost missed it, "This is going to get complicated, isn't it?" I looked at him, feeling the weight of something real settling over us. "Yeah," I said, "it is." And the way he exhaled told me he already knew it too. I didn't expect the night to feel so long. After we got back to cabin, everyone else acted like nothing unusual had happened on the trail. They joked about who slipped in the mud, who screamed when they saw the snake, who almost fell into the river. Normal stuff. Loud, messy, stupidly funny. But inside me, nothing was normal. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice again, low and steady, drifting through the trees. "Your lips are really beautiful." It kept replaying like a song stuck in my head. Except this one made my chest tighten every time. I spent the whole evening avoiding his eyes. Not because I wanted to, but because I was terrified of what I'd see in them. Or worse, what I wouldn't. Around midnight, when everyone was asleep or pretending to be, I slipped outside. The forest hummed with crickets and the faint rustle of leaves high above. The darkness wasn't threatening. It felt almost comforting, like it understood things human voices complicated. I sat on the wooden steps of the cabin, breathing the night air, trying to let the quiet settle whatever storm had started inside me. A few minutes passed. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, familiar. I didn't turn. I already knew who it was. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. His voice was gentle, too gentle, and it made something fragile in my chest tremble. "No," I said. "You." He exhaled softly. "Not really." He sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. His warmth radiated through the inches of space between us. He didn't look at me at first. He stared out into the dark, like the trees held the answers he couldn't put into words. I swallowed hard and forced myself to speak. "About earlier." He tensed. Just for a second. "You don't have to explain," he said quickly. "I shouldn't have said anything. It was dumb." "Forget it." The words punched the air out of me. "Forget it." As if I could. "It wasn't dumb," I said quietly. He finally turned his head. In the dim light, his eyes softened. "You didn't look very happy when I said it." "I was surprised," I whispered. He nodded slowly. "Surprised in a bad way?" "No," I said before I could stop myself. "Not bad." His expression shifted. Confusion, hope, fear, all tangled together. "Then why did you run from me?" he asked. My throat tightened. "I didn't run." "You didn't look at me for the rest of the hike." I let out a shaky breath. I didn't know how. He looked down at his hands, fidgeting with the edge of his sleeve. "I made you uncomfortable," he said. "I'm sorry." "You didn't." I said quickly. "That's the problem. You didn't." He froze. The silence between us grew heavy again. Not awkward, not empty, but filled with things neither of us knew how to say. He whispered, "Then why are we talking like something broke?" I didn't answer right away. Because inside me, two truths were fighting. One part of me wanted to pretend I didn't hear him earlier. Pretend nothing had changed. Pretend he was just my friend. Pretend his words didn't make my heart shake. The other part knew the truth. Something had changed. And pretending wouldn't fix anything. He shifted closer, just slightly. "Do you want to know why I said it?" he asked. My breath caught. "Yeah." He hesitated, rubbing his palm against his knee nervously, a gesture I'd never seen him do before. He was usually the confident one, the loud one, the one who made everyone laugh without trying. But right now he seemed unsure, vulnerable. "Because I always notice your mouth when you talk," he said quietly. "Not in a weird way. Just, I don't know. I like the way you move your lips. I like how you bite them when you're thinking. I like looking at them." I froze. He kept going, words trembling now. "I shouldn't feel that way. I know that. I shouldn't look at you like that. But I do. And today it slipped out because I didn't know how to hold it in anymore." My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. "Why me?" I whispered. He let out an unsteady breath. "I don't know," he said. "I wish I did. I wish I could explain why it's you and not any of the girls who've liked me before. I wish I could say it makes sense. He paused. But it doesn't. It's just real. Something inside me cracked open. Something I had been afraid to touch for a long time. I didn't get scared because you said it. I whispered. I got scared because I like hearing it. He inhaled sharply, like the confession stole his breath. Then, slowly, he turned his whole body toward me, knees brushing mine in the dark. "And what does that mean?" he asked softly. I didn't know how to answer. Not fully. Not cleanly. "It means this is new for me," I said. "It means I don't want to mess things up. It means I don't know what happens next." He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. "I don't either," he admitted. "But I know I don't want to pretend anymore." His hand lifted slightly from his knee, not reaching for me, just hovering there like he was giving me a choice. A moment. A chance. "If you don't want this," he whispered, "tell me now." I stared at his hand, at the boy who wasn't supposed to look at me like this, at the feelings I didn't expect to exist. And then, quietly, like a secret, I was finally brave enough to say, "I want this." I breathed. His lips parted in surprise, the softest, smallest smile forming at the edges. But before either of us moved, before anything else happened, before the moment could turn into something bigger, a loud voice shouted from inside the cabin. "Hey, where did you guys go? We're starting the game." We both jumped. He pulled his hand back quickly. And just like that, the moment was gone. He stood up first, brushing dirt from his jeans, masking the softness he'd just shown with the usual grin he wore around everyone else. He held the door open for me. "We'll talk later," he said gently. I nodded. But deep inside, I felt something unsettling, something I didn't want to admit. Later didn't feel like a promise. It felt like a warning. And I didn't know yet that the real test, the thing that would break us or make us, was waiting just around the corner. By the time we reached the ridge, the sunlight was bleeding into a deep amber that made the leaves glow like embers. The air had cooled just enough to raise goosebumps along my arms, and every sound, the crunch of leaves, the breeze through the trees, distant laughter from the rest of the group, felt sharper than usual. Or maybe it was just me. Maybe everything felt sharper because of what Noah had said earlier. "Your lips are beautiful." That sentence had been replaying in my mind for the last 2 hours like a broken record I couldn't stop. Even now, as we approached the lookout point, I felt it echo in my bones. Noah walked beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed occasionally. Each time it happened, something inside me tightened, like a string pulled too taut. He didn't seem bothered by it. If anything, he walked closer every time. "Hey," he said softly, nudging my arm. "You okay? You've been quiet." "I'm fine," I lied. He smirked. "You're a terrible liar." "Then why ask?" "Because sometimes people tell the truth when you give them a second chance." I felt heat climb my neck. "I'm not hiding anything." "No," he asked, raising a brow. Before I could reply, we reached the lookout point. The rest of our friends were scattered around, some taking pictures, some sitting on rocks, some still fighting over who had carried the heavier backpack. Noah and I walked to the edge of the cliff, where the view stretched for miles, rolling hills, thick forest, the sky painted in gold and purple. It was the kind of place people wrote poetry about, the kind of place where truths slipped out accidentally. "It's beautiful," I said. "Yeah," Noah said quietly. "It is." When I looked over, he wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at me. I turned away quickly, pretending to check my backpack. I needed anything to break the tension gathering around us. "Hey, guys," Marcus shouted behind us. "Selfie time before the sun goes down." Everyone groaned, but eventually gathered. Noah stood beside me, his arm brushing mine again. The picture was chaotic, hair everywhere, someone blinking, someone laughing mid-sentence. But behind all of it, I could feel Noah's eyes lingering on me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. After the pictures, the group started pulling out snacks and joking around. I sat on a fallen log, unwrapping a granola bar, when Noah came over and sat so close our thighs touched. "You still thinking about it?" he asked. "About what?" He tilted his head slightly. What I said earlier. My throat tightened. No. He laughed softly. There's that terrible lying again. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't trust my voice. He leaned in, lowering his tone. Can I ask you something? I nodded slowly. Did it bother you? What I said. I hesitated. I don't know. You don't know, he repeated, narrowing his eyes with a small, challenging smile. Or you don't want to say? I exhaled shakily. Why does it matter? Because I meant it, he said simply. The world felt suddenly too loud. Every leaf, every breath of wind, every distant laugh in the group behind us. It all felt like background noise to something much more dangerous happening in front of me. Noah, I said, not sure what would follow. He didn't push. He just looked at me, really looked, with an uncertainty that I'd never seen on his face before. You don't have to say anything, he murmured. I just didn't want you thinking I was joking. I didn't think you were joking, I said quietly. Good, he whispered. We sat like that for a moment, both staring at the forest below us, both pretending the moment wasn't stretching into something neither of us knew how to name. Then Noah cleared his throat, shifting slightly. Can I tell you something else? I braced myself. Sure. When I said your lips were beautiful, that wasn't the first time I noticed. I froze. I've thought that for a while, he said. I just never said it out loud. My chest tightened. Why not? Because we're friends, he said, voice softer. And because I wasn't sure how you'd react. And because... He paused. I wasn't sure how I would react. My pulse quickened. What does that mean? It means, he said, leaning just slightly closer, that being out here with you, away from everyone, made it harder to pretend I don't think about it. A breath caught in my throat. Think about what? His answer was immediate. You. The word hit me like a drop into still water, small, quiet, life-changing. Before I could respond, Marcus shouted again from behind us. You two lovebirds done hiding over there? We're heading down before it gets dark. Noah rolled his eyes, muttering, That guy's timing sucks. I almost laughed, but it came out trembling. The group started packing up. Noah stood, offered me his hand. When I took it, he didn't let go immediately. His thumb brushed my palm in a small, quiet gesture that said more than anything spoken. As we joined the group at the trail entrance, he leaned toward me and whispered, We're not done talking. My heart thudded painfully. Okay, I whispered back. He smiled, not wide, not dramatic, just enough to weaken the ground under my feet. As we began to descend back into the forest, the fading sunlight turning everything a deep copper, one thing became painfully clear. Whatever happened between us on this trail, this was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing there in the middle of the forest path, sunlight breaking through the trees, his breath warm against my lips as he whispered those words that rewrote everything inside me. Your lips are beautiful. I replayed it over and over, wondering if I imagined it, wondering if I twisted his tone, misread his expression, created a fantasy out of something innocent. But then I would remember the way his eyes softened, the way he stepped closer, the way his voice trembled just enough to betray something more. No, there was nothing innocent about the way he said it. Still, when the next morning came, the uncertainty felt heavier than my backpack. I kept asking myself the same question. What happens now? I had known Noah for 5 years. We met on the first day of high school and somehow never drifted apart, even when everyone else around us did. He was the outgoing one, the guy who knew how to make any room laugh. I was the quiet one, satisfied with one friend instead of 15. He never judged me when I came out. He never acted different. If anything, he became even more protective. That's why I valued our friendship so much. That's why I feared losing it even more. As we packed up our things in the cabin and got ready for the final trail segment before heading home, I felt a knot of anxiety crawl up my spine. I kept glancing at him, trying to decipher whether he wanted to pretend last night didn't happen or talk about it. But Noah seemed oddly calm, almost peaceful. Ready? He asked, throwing his bag over one shoulder. Yeah, I said, even though I wasn't ready at all. When we left the cabin and joined the others, the morning was quiet. Dew clung to the leaves. The birds were just waking up, and the sky was still carrying the pale pink of dawn. Our group started along the trail, but Noah slowed his pace until we were walking alone at the back. My pulse jumped. He was doing this on purpose. So, he said with a tiny smile, you avoided me all morning. I nearly tripped over a root. I didn't avoid you. You literally pretended not to hear me when I said good morning. My boots were tied too tight. He laughed softly, the kind of warm, breathy laugh that made my chest tighten. You don't have to be nervous around me. I'm not nervous. He raised an eyebrow. Your voice cracks when you lie. Damn him. We walked in silence for a few minutes. The trail narrowed, forcing us closer together, our arms occasionally brushing. Each touch felt like a spark. I didn't know if he felt it too, but he didn't move away. Finally, he said, about yesterday. My throat tightened. Forget it. Noah, you don't have to explain anything. Why would I forget it? He asked gently. Because it was probably nothing. You were tired, emotional, whatever. No, he said firmly. It wasn't nothing. My heart stopped. He slowed his steps even more until we came to a small clearing where the sunlight broke through the canopy. He stopped walking, and I did too. The others were far ahead now, their voices fading into the trees. Noah looked at me with something I had never seen before, a mix of fear, hope, and a vulnerability he never let anyone see. I told you your lips were beautiful because I've always thought that. The forest went completely silent. I didn't say it by accident, he continued. I said it because it felt true, and because I couldn't hold it in anymore. My breaths came short and uneven. Noah, what are you doing? He hesitated, not uncertain, but afraid of the weight of his own honesty. I don't know when it started, he said slowly. Maybe a year ago, maybe two, but lately, whenever you look at me, something happens inside me, and I don't know how to explain it. A shiver ran through me, not from cold, but from the sheer impossibility of this moment becoming real. You're straight, I whispered. He swallowed. I thought I was. The forest seemed to tilt beneath me. Noah stepped closer, closing the distance between us until our chests almost brushed. His voice dropped. I'm not saying I understand everything. I'm not saying I'm ready to tell the world. But I know how I feel when I'm with you. And yesterday, when I looked at your lips, he breathed out slowly. I wanted to kiss you. My heart slammed against my ribs, so hard I thought he might hear it. I searched his eyes for doubt, hesitation, anything that might tell me he was confused or overwhelmed or not thinking clearly. But I found none of it. Only truth. Only longing. Only him. No, I whispered, my voice trembling. You don't know what this means. I know exactly what it means, he murmured. He lifted a hand slowly, giving me enough time to pull away if I wanted to. I didn't. His fingers brushed my jaw, soft and unsure, like he was touching something sacred. I don't want to hurt you, he said. I don't want to mess this up. You won't. I whispered. I might, he breathed, because I'm still figuring out who I am. And that scares me. I'm scared, too, I said. He let out a tiny laugh. Good. Then we're both idiots. He leaned forward, but footsteps and loud voices echoed through the trees. Our group was calling for us, growing impatient. Noah dropped his hand quickly, stepping back, but the look in his eyes didn't fade. This isn't over, he said quietly. I swallowed hard. I know. He gave me a small, shaky smile and brushed his shoulder against mine as we started walking again. And for the rest of the trail, my heart wasn't beating normally. It was beating toward something terrifying, something beautiful, something new. And I knew the moment was coming when neither of us would be able to pretend anymore. I don't know how long we stayed there on that rock, just the two of us, surrounded by pine trees and fading sunlight. But it felt like time had finally stopped chasing me. Everything I had pushed down for years, every fear, every doubt, every what, it all went quiet the moment Ethan's hand found mine. His thumb brushed the back of my hand slowly, almost nervously, like he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. I wasn't sure I ever wanted to again. Hey, he whispered, his voice low and warm. Are you still with me? I nodded, though my chest felt like it was trembling. Yeah, I'm here. He let out a soft breath, the kind that sounded like relief. Good, because I don't want this to be something you regret later. Regret. The word struck me harder than I expected. I turned to face him fully. The sky behind him had shifted into deep orange, fading into purple. His hair caught the last threads of sunlight, and for a moment he didn't look like the boy I had grown up with. He looked older, braver, like someone who had been waiting far too long to finally breathe. Ethan, I said quietly, nothing about this feels like a mistake. He searched my face, studying me with that same careful intensity he always used when he was scared of hope. So you're okay with what happened back there? Back there. The moment on the trail, when he touched my face, when he said my lips were beautiful, when the truth finally rose between us like a tide we couldn't hold back anymore. I swallowed. Yeah, I am. A slow smile appeared on his lips. Not the playful one he wore around everyone else. Not the teasing grin he used whenever he was trying to annoy me. This one was soft. Real. Almost fragile. Good, he whispered. Because I don't want to pretend anymore. Those words lit a fire inside my chest I didn't know how to put out. I shifted closer, our knees touching. Neither do I. His eyes softened, and he leaned in a little. Not enough to touch, but enough that I felt the warmth of him settle across my skin. You know, he murmured, I spent years trying to convince myself that this, whatever this is, was just me being protective, or stupidly attached, or jealous without reason. Jealous? I asked, my cheeks warming. He laughed softly. Please. Everyone notices you more than you think. And every time someone else got too close to you on these trips or at school, I felt like I was losing something I never had the courage to claim. I hadn't expected that. Not from him. Not from the boy everyone believed was unshakable. Ethan, I whispered, I didn't know. I didn't want you to know, he admitted, brushing a hand through his hair. I wasn't ready. I kept telling myself you deserved someone better. Someone braver. Someone who wasn't terrified of their own shadow. I reached up and touched his jaw lightly, something I'd never allowed myself to do until now. His breath hitched. You don't need to be brave for everyone, I said. Just be brave with me. His eyes opened slowly at that, and something in them shifted into certainty. He lifted his hand and placed it gently on the side of my neck, thumb tracing my skin like he was memorizing it. Then let me try something, he whispered. I didn't need to answer. My silence told him everything. He leaned in slowly, giving me time, space, choice. And when our lips finally met, it felt nothing like the quick, chaotic kisses you see in movies. It was soft at first, almost hesitant, like he was afraid I'd disappear. His hand slid to my cheek, while mine curled around the back of his neck. The warmth of him, the smell of pine on his clothes, the sound of his quiet breath, all of it melted together into something that felt like coming home. When we pulled away, he rested his forehead against mine. This is real, right? He whispered. Yeah, I breathed. It's real. He let out a shaky laugh. God, I wanted this for so long. I felt my chest swell. Me too. We stayed like that until the cold breeze finally chased us off the rock. The sky was darker now, stars beginning to appear above the treetops. Ethan stood first and held out his hand. Ready to head back? I took it. Only if you don't let go. He pulled me up with a grin. Not a chance. We walked the rest of the trail together, hand in hand, the forest around us humming softly with crickets and rustling leaves. It felt like the world itself was finally giving us permission. When we reached the campground clearing, the glow of the fire reflected on Ethan's face. Our friends were still talking and laughing, unaware of how everything had changed. He squeezed my hand once, quietly, secretly, before letting go and stepping forward. But as he turned, he whispered so only I could hear. Tonight didn't scare me. It set me free. I smiled, because it set me free too. Later, when the fire died down, Ethan sat beside me on a fallen log. He leaned close, shoulder touching mine, a silent promise we both understood. And under that open sky, surrounded by the people who had seen us grow up, but never truly seen us, I realized something beautiful. This wasn't the end of the trail. It was the beginning of us.